Right. So, there's a very important question that I would like to ask the forum over here. Why do we work? You guys are students over here. There are some faculty members over here with decent amount of experience. My question to all of you is, why do we work? Satisfaction. Awesome. What else?
Earn and learn. Earn and learn.
Earn and learn. Good. Anything else? Being absolutely blunt. Yeah. You work for money. Okay. And we'll come to that particular point. Right. I'll come to satisfaction as well in some point in time. But before we do that, let's know your speaker. My name is Kunal Wadhwani. Okay. I'll first talk about, I'll give you a brief background about my education, and then I'll move on to what my experience has been till date and what I'm doing right now. I have graduated in sociology from Mumbai University in India. That was in 1999. I have completed my software management course in Mumbai University. Let me be very frank with you. If you have any software related questions, I might not necessarily be able to answer those because I have specialized in Fox Pro, which is no longer used at this particular point in time. But my MS Office skills are pretty much good because of this particular course. I completed my MBA in Human Resources from Mumbai University in 2006. And in 2013 and 2016, I have got 3 diplomas from George Washington University in specific HR courses which are related to job evaluation, which are related to compensation and advanced compensation mechanisms like how to create short-term incentive plans and how to create long-term incentive plans for CXO level roles. As far as my work experience goes, starting 2000, I have worked with WNS Global Services. It used to be known as British Airways once upon a time. And this was the back-end office of British Airways, which was taken over by Warburg Pincus after the economic crisis, after the 9/11 issue. And now it's a full-fledged BPO. In 2004, I joined Kali Consultants Limited, worked with them for a period of 3 years. Then I had a short stint with Epicenter Technologies. I was working with them as the assistant manager for employee relations. Moving on to Tata Consultancy Services, which was my previous employer before I came to Dubai. And I had some amazing learning opportunities in that organization from an HR perspective. And October 2010, I have moved to Dubai. And since last 6 years, this is like the longest stretch in my career tenure that I have spent. Choithram has been an amazing experience to work for. It is primarily a family-owned organization. And to give you a brief background about the company that I come from right now, Choithrams is a 70-year-old plus organization, right? The primary business involves retail, supermarkets, distribution networks for food products, FMCG. We are massively into manufacturing as well, into healthcare. We have hospitals, we have education, we have schools in India and Africa, as well as, very recently we have ventured into e-commerce. So we have an online supermarket today. So if you go to choithrams.com, that's our online grocery store. And if you go to choithramsgroup.com, that's our official website of our company. Few more small businesses. We have ventured into cafe business very recently. We have opened a small business hotel called Petals Inn in Thailand at the moment, and we are venturing how we can grow with those things. So yes, so I currently head the human resources for Middle East region. I'm based out of UAE. Please, walk in. Come. So I head the Middle East region. I'm based out of UAE. I also take care of Oman, Qatar and Bahrain operations. So a total headcount of approximately 4,000 people whom I take care of. There are 23 team members in my team across GCC region who support me with my initiatives, 5 direct reportees, and all other people are reporting indirectly into me. What we are going to understand today is a few HR factors that are associated to my first question that I asked, why do we work? Factors affecting the pay policy in an organization. We are going to look at performance appraisal snapshot from a balanced scorecard methodology perspective. And then we are going to look at an example of a simple merit review, how it is actually done. All right. Why do you work? I had asked this question some point in time back. I had answers like money, earn and learn, satisfaction. Well, it may not necessarily go beyond that as well. But let me ask you a question. From a satisfaction perspective, would you like to work for me for free? Absolutely no, right? So the primary objective is, that we are working for compensation. We are working for rewards on a routine basis. So Just when we walk in and join an organization, we get an offer letter. We are very happy that we have, an offer letter which says that X amount of salary will be paid to me on a monthly basis. But maybe a year or 2 years down the line, you really are not just happy getting that amount. Now you want more. You're talking about more rewards here and there. So compensation plus rewards are something that we are working for. What is the impact of this compensation on you as an individual employee of an organization? Anyone? How does it impact you?
You get motivated.
You get motivated? Okay. Anything else? Happiness. Dubai for happiness. Yay.
Put in more effort of doing something.
More effort, absolutely. You have this tendency of performing better to grow more, right? Motivation and morale. Retention and engagement. And retention is the key word, because most of the organizations today are suffering because of people leaving the company in short span of times. I'll give you an example from Choithram's. 3 years back, there was this new regulation passed by Dubai Health Authority, which stated that you need to have mandatory medical insurance. Okay. Now, for an organization which has been there, in Dubai region for 40 plus years now, we always used to have tie-up with medical companies, clinics, hospitals, and trust me, nobody used to ask a question like, if I go to a specialist just like that, nobody's going to bother. They are just going to sign off and reimburse the money, right? But suddenly medical insurance comes in, right? And for an organization which has never dealt into with an external service provider for getting medical insurance, okay, they say, okay, like let's take the basic policy, whatever we have. But now the basic policy comes in, and the basic policy says you cannot go to a specialist. You have to go to a specialist via GP, or somebody who's really suffering, or maybe somebody who's really spoiled by us, okay, doesn't like the idea. Now what happens is the satisfaction index comes down straight away. People start leaving. And people start leaving and they join other companies which have a better medical insurance policy, right? Now, when we do our, engagement survey, okay, and we do our analytics and we come to a consensus, oh God, look at this, people are leaving for medical insurance. So what we do is second year, okay, of medical insurance, mandatory medical insurance, we get a better policy. We get a better policy where we try and bring back all the possible things that we used to provide to employees in our erstwhile scenario, right? And our attrition was ranging somewhere around 15 to 16%. We brought it down to 11% within 1 year. So point is finding out the right reasons, okay, why people leave the company. And compensation apparently is one of the key factors, because your medical insurance is a part of your compensation matrix, right? Understanding HR factors. Now we are going to talk about money over here. What things in an organization are associated to money? Sorry, ma'am.
Everything.
Everything. If we try and put certain perspectives in place, we have to look at the job, right? And what are the sub-factors associated to your job? Responsibilities, accountabilities, your contributions, decisions, the actions that you are involved in, the complexities and challenges of that particular job, the skills, experience and trainings associated to that particular job, right? The person, performance associated to the person, and the sub-factors associated to these elements are the experience, seniorities, goals and objectives, the annual goals that are associated to you as an employee. Your annual goals contribute, okay, to the overall organization's vision, right? And competencies and behaviors, a very, very key element which we will discuss maybe in little broader detail when we come to the balanced scorecard perspective. The market, right? I'm going to benchmark my competitors. I'm going to see what other organizations are really doing, okay? And I'm going to look at the affordability perspective, right? So just because oil and gas, okay, pays a huge salary, oil and gas companies have a huge medical insurance, should a retail company be paying that much, right? Supply and demand and cost of living perspectives. Now these three things combine to become the golden triangle of reward management. Now what I'm going to show you is something very practical that Choithram's does, right? Something that you may not necessarily find in books, because you come to an assessment of what you're going to see, right? So this takes years and years of work, okay, to get to what you're going to see. When you connect the job, person, performance as well as the market, okay, we will start from the first criteria, the job, and see how each process flow, okay, links to the dollar factor, the money factor. You first work on the organization design of the organization. So this is what we have done in the in our organization as such, and I'll take you through the flow. So first we created the organization design, okay. We moved on to creating the job descriptions of each people. Now you need to understand this. Job description is to define the job, not the person, right? And that's a very, very key element to understand. In my organization, within the retail team, there are 4 clusters: super cluster, fresh cluster, market 1 and market 2. And we have cluster managers for all the domains. But when we look at the job description, we just have one job description for all the cluster managers. All right? From job descriptions, we take all the job descriptions one by one and we do a job evaluation, okay, which leads to the grading mechanism, and grades are associated to pay scale ranges, and pay scale ranges is the money. So that's how it is linked. Now from the job description, you get your KRAs. What are KRAs? Key result areas, or actually specifically it is known as key responsibility areas, right? And from KRAs, you get KPIs. What are KPIs? Key performance indicators. What is the difference between KRAs and KPIs? Anyone? What is the difference between KRAs and KPIs? Key responsibility areas on one hand, key performance indicators on the other. What is the difference?
See, the recruitment is a KRA. When we say we have to decrease the cost of recruitment, it comes under KPIs. Or we have to.
Interesting. Interesting. You're right.
Turnaround time for the recruitment.
Correct. Turnaround time will be a responsibility or a KPI?
KPI.
It's a KPI. Very right. So to polish what you have just said, okay, key responsibility areas will define the generic responsibilities of the person, maybe 7 to 8 points, okay, and this responsibility factors will be a part of your job description. However, KPIs are for each employee, and that is the reason you see KPI is associated to the person. Now, I give you an example of cluster managers in retail in our company, right? 4 different cluster managers, 1 job description, but 4 KPI sheets, 1 for each cluster manager. Why? Because the targets associated to each cluster is going to be different. Our super cluster are the large format of our supermarkets, so obviously the revenue that we would like to generate from the large format will obviously be more than a fresh format. Isn't that correct? Right? So the KPIs, the key performance indicators, will differ from employee to employee. However, the KRAs will remain same for a group of employees if they are at the same level, right? So from KPIs, we generate the goals and objectives, right? What we need to understand is the job description, once made, okay, may not necessarily get updated on an annual basis. Get it? Why? Because it's a generic job description. Once you have defined the responsibilities, you really need not go through this, again and again on an annual basis. Maybe 3 years, 5 years down the line, when you decide to upgrade the job, okay, or make certain necessary amendments within that particular job portfolio, you'll go back to your repository and see. However, goals and objectives are set on an annual basis, and that is the reason it is associated to the person and the performance of the person, right? When you guys join an organization tomorrow, okay, you need to understand the difference between a job description and a goal setting sheet, right? The goals will be set on what you mentioned, you gave an example about turnaround time. Can we say that the turnaround time that we have used in 2016 will be the same target for you in 2017? If you have really performed well, they might squeeze your target in 2017, right? So it totally depends on how you perform and what the expectations of the organization's achievements are. We also look at behavior and competencies in the next part of it. And why behaviors are so important is because, let's say in your team you have an employee, okay, who's giving you maybe 150% of productivity, but comes in 2 hours late every day. Is that acceptable? Not acceptable. You have a team member in your team who gives you 150% productivity. That's like huge, really huge, but comes 2 hours late every day. Acceptable? Not acceptable. Not acceptable. Can someone tell me why it is not acceptable? I mean, people can't sometimes give you 100%. This guy is giving you 150%, right? So why is it not acceptable?
It will influence the rest of it.
Precisely. Bang on. It will influence the rest, and the rest involves those people, maybe a few, who struggle to even give you 100% in spite of sending the 100% time on the shop floor. And let's say if those people get influenced, okay, your overall productivity of the organization goes down. So the answer is, it is not acceptable. Similarly, if the person displays appropriate behavior, maintains all the possible ethical standards within the organization, okay, is it okay if they don't meet their goals on an annual basis? No. So competencies, behaviors, the goals and objectives go hand in hand, and this hand in hand mechanism is called as balanced scorecard, right? But more on that in some time. The goals and objectives gets clubbed with behavior competencies, and it goes into your annual appraisal sheet. And once your annual appraisal happens, it leads to merit pay review, which we will look at an example in due course of time. And as you know, merit pay reviews are associated to increments on an annual basis. It relates to promotion, which again gives you some amount of hike in your salary. So it is again related to the money factor. Finally, when we look at the market, we look at the pay policy. So now this is primarily the HR's job, compensation and benefits analyst, compensation and benefits specialist. These are the guys who work on this activity. So first thing is that we need to create a pay policy for our organization. Once we have created the pay policy, we gather pay surveys. There are sizable amount of options in the market. Hey, there is Tower Watson, there's Mercer, right? There's AO and Hewitt. So all these guys, okay, they sell their benchmarking data. Depending upon what your organization wants, you can buy those, you can benchmark your internal pay scale ranges with what is happening in the market. You can look at the analytics to see the year-on-year growth, you know, the market salary, how it is increasing, and then benchmark yourself. And finally, correct your internal pay scale ranges, which are again related to the money part of it. And the key element is this job evaluation that we did for grades over here. Okay, why job evaluation is done? Because once you have defined, let's say Choithram has got 10 grades. Okay, job evaluation will define which job goes into which grade. And this data that you create over here is used while benchmarking as well. All right. Any questions on this? Is it clear? So we can move on, right? So this is what primarily happens in Choithram. When we were trying to incorporate this fundamental in our organization, this was like an 18-month project. So it doesn't happen in one day. It takes a lot of time, a lot of push, because Choithrams is, like I mentioned, a 70-year-old plus organization, a typical family-owned culture. Obviously, we guys are there in the organization with an intent of moving it to a corporate culture. These were the steps taken from HR perspective to achieve that particular mission. Moving on. Let me tell you, there are 4 types of rewards. Okay. Any idea what are those?
Extrinsic, intrinsic.
Those are 2 variances, correct? But those are, if we look at the details of rewards specifically, what can be those? Monetary,
emotional.
Oh, what else? I have not even put this on Google yet.
Training.
Training, okay. What else?
Promotion. Promotion. Job promotion.
Job promotion is okay. You get emotional about it, which is nice, but eventually you get a financial reward out of it. So yeah, but that's fair to say. Anything else? Learning. So your point, training over there. Last one, very, very important. Me and Mr. Sanjay were speaking about it before we walked in. Development, again, learning, development may go hand in hand over there. Spiritual. What is spiritual? For me, the process flow that I showed you some time back, okay, a minute ago, is my baby. It gives me a lot of pleasure to stand over here and tell you that I'm an expert, okay, in startup HR. This is a very, it's a spiritual feeling for me to say, I have the ownership of this whole process in my organization. This is my achievement. On a lighter note, let me tell you a short story about what happened in my office. When we were implementing our online HR application, okay, we had certain people in my team who were little rookies. Okay, they have not dealt with people as such. You come out fresh from college and you try and push because you have got a deliverable. Kunal Wadhwani has given you a timeline, so you are running around with it. And then one of my team members, she comes and she says that all that this IT guy is not listening, and there's a bug in the system, and these when I told them they are not reacting appropriately, they are not helping me out in time. How do I meet my targets? And I tell the person, okay, you know what? Did you tell them that your system is not working properly? And she says yes. I said, okay, come with me. And I go to the IT department, and there's this guy from India, from South India. His name is Vadivelan. Okay, we call him V. Okay, short. And I say, hey V, come here. I was like, yeah. So V, tell me, if your laptop falls into water and your wife falls into water, okay, what will you save first? You know what the answer was? Laptop. Tell anything that he has a spiritual belonging towards his laptop, because whatever he has created, it is there in the laptop. He spends more time with the laptop compared to his wife. It is impossible that you go and tell a person something that they are spiritually oriented with and close to. If you tell that person that it is not working properly, they get offended, right? So, but that was on a lighter note, So, spiritual is a very, very important factor. Eventually, when you start off in an organization, which you guys will in some point in time, you will go through this particular phase step by step. Because initially you look at financial, you mentioned about promotion, you look at financial growth in the initial stages. Okay, you have that emotional phase in the organization where you are trying to psychologically get aligned within the organization through memberships, club associations, learning, and all those things will happen. And eventually when you have, let's say, 10 years of experience, this is the time when this whole spiritual process begins. So today I have around 16 years of experience. In last 6 years, what I have been doing in Choithram is trying to create my own baby. Okay, and that is the HR process that you guys just saw. What are the factors affecting the pay policy? Because we are talking about money. Okay, and at times what happens is we see college students come in. Obviously, they have not spent much time in the industry as such. And when sometimes due to some unforeseen circumstances, okay, appraisals do not happen in the organization, there are a lot of questions raised. But what if we already know, okay, what we need to understand from a market perspective, from an internal perspective, okay? Maybe you will ask the right questions in a right tone, okay? And it will also help you stay in the organization, understanding the organization's perspective, rather than saying that, oh, appraisals are not happening since last 1.5 years, let me just go to some other organization. But some other organization might be going through different set of challenges which are associated to these factors. So let's have a look at them. Internal factors, business strategy. What are the key financial performance indicators? We spoke about goals and objectives, right? Okay. So it is very important what the board does. If the board has clearly documented and communicated the financial objectives of what they want to achieve, okay, all your goals, individual goals, will be linked to those in some or the other way. Again, key non-financial performance indicators in, let's say, for retail, we are strongly looking at reducing our shrinkage levels, from our store perspective. So that is our non-financial indicator. We look at operating plans, we look at management philosophy over here. The organization structure, we are in a process where we are restructuring our organization. We are in the process of implementing a CXO level in the company. So we already have a CTO in our organization. We are getting a CEO in our company very, very soon. So family organization moving to a corporate, different plans, okay, altogether. And hopefully by 2018, we'll have a new corporate governance structure in our company. So the intent is to maximize our profits and accordingly, channelize those initiatives. Workforce demographics, okay, what is the spread of nationality? We are working in a very cosmopolitan country at this particular point in time. The local population is around 10%, all others are expat. Which areas do I need to target? Where do I need to hire from? All those aspects come over here. Ability to pay. We are going to look at different reports, okay, and a classic example of ability to pay is the recession that happened sometime back to starting from 2008, 2011. This was a very, very tough phase for any organization, including our organization, because no increments happened during this particular phase. What should I do as an employee? Should I stay? Should I run away? Where do I run away? Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a massive crisis. You couldn't go anywhere for that matter. No, but I'll tell you what happens is why I would like to highlight this topic in this forum. Maybe if I'm speaking to professionals who have around 10 to 15 years of experience, okay, I might not get into details of this point as such, but it is very, very important from a student perspective to understand this phenomena. Reason being, I have seen in my company, okay, although we did not terminate even one employee from our organization, we did not terminate one employee, it was like a fear factor, general fear factor, okay, because I have, let's say, 73% blue collar workforce working for my organization today, all right. These guys, one driver knows driver from other organization, and what happens is that other driver from other organization tells, oh, you know what, these many people were removed yesterday from our company, and everybody starts shaking in my organization. So without even sometimes talking to you as a superior person in the company who can actually give a very clear-cut picture to me as an employee, I don't choose to come to you. I decide, okay, let me start applying wherever. And it is not necessary I stay in the same country. It can take me anywhere for that matter. And then I realized that I joined some other organization only to get terminated maybe in 6 months' time. Get it? So from a student perspective, it is very important to understand what factors. So ask the right questions to the right people in the company. If you guys come across this particular stage, and it's a cynical world, you know, it has happened then. We are going through a crisis right now at this particular stage. Trust me, the current crisis is way too bad than what it used to be, okay? But because we are maybe sitting in Dubai, we don't feel the hit so much at this stage, right? External factors, economic business environment. We are looking at key economic indicators like inflation or the ratio of unemployment over here. We are looking at employment market trends. What are the supply and demand, okay, over here. Let me give you an example. Philippines has just increased the minimum wages for Filipinos, okay, when they are hired at an unskilled labor level, okay, and this has actually dropped the ratio of Filipinos coming in from Philippines right now, because if I have to hire a cashier from India for my supermarket, I have to pay around 1,200 dirhams per month, all right, but Filipinos today are asking for 1,800. Why should I hire them? It's a no-brainer. I will not hire them, right? So it affects government regulations, external factors affects, you know, employee base as well. Pay market trends, projected pay increases till the oil prices reduced, okay, drastically. The market was moving on a 5.5% ratio in the Middle East on an average. After the oil price issue has started off, it has come down to 3%. So let's say if my budget in the organization is 3%, okay, the top performer gets maybe 6%. That's about it, not more than that. Can we really complain? We can't, because that's how the market trend is. General trends in cash and benefits and other reward structures. You know, company car facility was a very, very popular facility given to most of the nationalities who were working at supervisory level in UAE till like 2 years back. And all the companies, including mine, have eradicated that particular policy. We are just giving you a car allowance right now. So that's how market trends affects us. You know, industry norms, best practice trends, tax and legislative environments. We are looking at taxation laws. VAT is coming in. Okay. Good morning. It's going to affect us in some or the other way, right? So what we are doing is we are trying to target financial specialists either from Europe or from India at this stage, because those two countries deal massively into VAT legislations. So we want to gain that kind of an experience, and we have started hiring financial resources from Europe, Central Europe and India at this particular point in time. Social trends, community values trends, you know, sometimes you are into CSR initiatives, you know, how much is your, you know, how strong you are in CSR initiatives, what is your portfolio, that determines the activity. General workforce demographics, and finally the expectations and requirement to pay, reduced job security and potential redundancies that come into picture. We just spoke about that some time back. You need to understand this sheet being a student today. You'll be giving a campus interview maybe sooner or later, right? Please go through this. I'm just going to give you a very quick idea. D1 is basically 10%. So decile, one decile is 10%. Okay. So we talk in terms of decile, percentile, and quartile. All right. When we talk about compensation matrices, and these are sizable amount of industries and how they are segregated from a percentile perspective. So when you look at heavy manufacturing units, no brainer that sizable amount of population working in this industry is unskilled. They are not very educated, not massively mature as well. So obviously the pay package goes down. It's at a lower decile. P10, 10th percentile. D1, 1 decile. Okay. As you keep growing, lower quartile is 25 P25, so it's Q1. All right, you see hotel and hospitality industry over there, healthcare and medical services, utilities, education. You know why they pay a low end in-hand package? Because they have sizable amount of benefits associated to their organization. So if let's say you have to join an organization which is into education, and if you have kids, okay, they get 50 to 60% discount. If you have 2 kids and you enroll both the kids into the institution, 1 kid studies for free. So these are the big time benefits that come. If you are working with hotels and hospitality, you get maybe a 60 to 70% discount in that hotel premises wherever you go in the world. If you are working for, let's say, travel and tourism, okay, I used to be a part of British Airways once upon a time in WNS Global Services. I used to get 90% off to fly. And we have flown a lot then. Singapore, Dubai was one of our tour spots in those days. But as you keep growing, you come to median, which is 50th percentile, okay, and these are the sizable amount. Retail, engineering, aviation and airlines, automotive, these are certain industries which come into this particular bracket. As you grow up, this is the 65th percentile where you have fast moving consumer goods business. So distribution, food channels, food retailing, these specific industries come over there. Media marketing. As you keep growing, your technology and IT gets close to P70. You go to P75, you have retail banking over there. So if you join a bank, okay, you might not necessarily be at 75th percentile. But if you're a part of retail banking, then you get paid really, really high. As you move on, financial services, oil and gas, right on top, 90th percentile. So how you read this is, because I'll be sharing this presentation with you guys, once I get back to office today. How you read this is, if you see oil and gas right here, you will say 90% of other industries are below oil and gas. If I look at retail, 50% of industries are below retail. That's how you read it. So tomorrow when you are going through a campus interview round, okay, and let's say you happen to be seated in front of a panel which comes from a hotel industry, okay, but what has happened is just before you enter that interview, you have met a guy who has just come out from an oil and gas interview. Okay, don't expect that you will be paid the same stipend or whatever salary components that has been promised to your oil and gas friend. And by the way, let me tell you, oil and gas has its own challenges, by the way. Again, on a very lighter note, I'll give you an example. How oil and gas works is, even for HR, they say, I want 15 years of oil and gas experience. And I wonder, how is that going to help you guys, So whether you know performance management or not, it does not matter, but you should have oil and gas experience. So they are like really, really stringent at times. So analyze the overall perspective, talk to people who are industry experts, gain some information about what each industry caters to, what is, the flow of communication within that industry, because sometimes money is not everything. Remember this, the biggest industry that got hit in the last 2 years was oil and gas. And trust me, people are still having problems finding another job because they were getting paid so high then, right? Even retail sometimes cannot absorb these guys. So let's say a HR executive, okay, of oil and gas may be getting around 18 to 19,000 dirhams per month, right? But if they have to move and go to any other industry, massive challenge, massive challenge. Nobody's going to pay them 18 to 19,000 at that particular level, right? So why I'm sharing this information with you is so that you understand how industries are divided from a percentile and decile perspective, okay, and then make your move. Sometimes we are really passionate about certain things, education, some people may be really, really passionate about it, right? So they should understand this perspective before getting into it and the benefits associated to it, right? Intrinsic and extrinsic breakup, okay? Now this is how total reward is divided into 2 major factors. One is the extrinsic factors, which is, okay, can be evaluated, which can be counted. And then we have the internal value or motivational factor, okay, which are associated to rewards. And as you see, I have drawn a breakup over here. You have the base salary, hourly wage, which is your base cash, plus the short-term variable that forms the total cash component over here. You add the total cash component with long-term incentives and passive benefits, that becomes your direct compensation, total direct compensation. You take your total direct compensation and add it with active benefits, which are the cars that company gives you, the club membership that the company has for you. That becomes your total remuneration, and you add it with the intrinsic value proposition of psychological alignment, learning perspectives, trust factor within the organization, that becomes the total reward mechanism. Balanced scorecard. We spoke about goals and objectives. We spoke about your competencies and behavior. Some time back, and maybe Mr. Sanjay, you'll be able to relate to what I'm just going to say. There was a process called as management by objectives, MBO, a very, very popular old school appraisal methodology, right? And it was all about the goal set. So if you are given a target, you have to achieve that target, may what. Then people started realizing, oh my goodness, I don't even see my team member half a day in my office. Where is he? Okay, sir, you know what? I achieved my targets. So I was out. Acceptable, not acceptable. We discussed that some time back. It was not acceptable, right? Then came another very popular fundamental called as 360-degree appraisal format. The one big loophole that I personally believe as an HR professional, which applies to 360 degrees, that if I don't like Sanjay, and if Sanjay has to be, forced to give an opinion about Kunal Wadhwani, then my appraisal is finished. It's over, right? So that is the biggest loophole over there. But let me tell you this. In organizations which have got 90% educated and mature people, 360-degree works wonders for them, even today. And then, okay, to cater to those other kind of organizations comes balanced scorecard. A balanced scorecard says objectives are really, really important, but we also want to assess behaviors. We want to assess behaviors and we want to give equal weightage to behaviors. So the goals that you set for yourself as an employee, okay, that will get 50% or maybe 60% weightage. And the competencies and behaviors that we set for you for your job role, okay, which you have to obviously display, are going to get around 40 to 50% weightage as well, right? So today when companies are adopting this particular methodology, it is more of a management philosophy rather than just being a process organization. And these are the 4 perspectives of balanced scorecard, right? We are looking at a learning perspective, right? What learning opportunities are we going to create for ourselves in our organization? So let's say training and development. How much of emphasis is given on soft skills training? How much of emphasis is given on the process orientation over there in the organization? That leads to creating the internal perspective, which is setting up the internal processes of the organization. So you have done your learning, you have created your strategies, you have using those strategies, you have created your internal processes as well, okay? And using those processes, how are you going to create customer satisfaction? How are you going to create customer delight? And how that customer delight and satisfaction is going to club everything together and create and assist you in achieving your financial objectives of the organization. And why financial objectives are so important? When we talk about total shareholder return, when we talk about return on investments, when the organization is investing on learning internal perspective, okay, they need something in return. And please understand this, you guys are management students, you need to know that a business exists to
serve the customers,
make profits, right? Everything else is a channel to get there, right? And if the owners get their return, that's how they invest more. So you follow one process going up to achieve the organizational vision, you keep getting back the budgets that you expect for each and every stage. How this segregation of 4 steps helps organization, to achieve their vision. Let's say in 2016, okay, I put a lot of emphasis on financial perspective. So what I do is basically everybody has to go through a goal setting in my goal setting phase in the organization. So let's say we are creating goals for Mr. Sanjay. I say Mr. Sanjay is retail operations head of Choithrams, right? I will set the first goal and I'll try and determine which quadrant of balanced scorecard that goals fall into. So let's say I have given him a target that you have to get 10% more sales compared to last year. Which type of target is that? Financial, right? Your customer index satisfaction rate has to maybe 5% more than last year. Where does it come? Right? Create technological innovation in the organization for your process and get in BI intelligence tool incorporated in the company. Where does it come? Learning or internal? Internal, right? And maybe go through some MDP programs, for self-learning perspective. Learning perspective. Learning at a retail HUD level will also involve talking to team members, conducting routine team briefings, and getting the informal feedback from their end. That is also a learning in a way. Understand your team better, right? So what we do is, once we have set goals using these phenomena, fundamentals as we call it, you can derive a ratio of how much emphasis have you put on financial. So if let's say you have set 10 goal points for Mr. Sanjay as a retail HOD, right? If 5 are financial, you have given 50% weightage on financial parameters. Now in 2017, okay, when you want to set goals again for the retail HOD, you realize that all right, financially we have done well last year, we can maintain the same targets, which is fine. But what we want to do is we want to have more innovation in this year. So you will put more emphasis on internal. So your perspectives when you are setting goals will be absolutely clear. And this is how balanced scorecard helps you. Balanced scorecard helps you channelize your activities in a way you want to perform in the organization. And that's how it is associated to the organization's vision. The vision, obviously, when you make it is you have a timeline associated to it, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years. So depending upon what you want to do, year on year, you can shuffle between the balanced scorecard quadrants and create, importance priorities, for you when you're making your goals. So why do we have performance management? Obviously, we have discussed about defining annual goals. We have discussed about benchmarking performance standards, succession planning. It tells you, appraisal system tells you who gets promoted. And the previous structure that I showed you, the flow chart, okay, it tells you if you are getting promoted, there's a grade structure. Which grade do you go into? So there's a very clear-cut picture, given to the employees in the company. It helps you do training need analysis. If somebody has performed better, and I want to promote that person, all right, and I say, to get promoted, there's this one thing, I need you to go through, let's say, conflict resolution training, and I can make you the HR manager, okay. So we put those training need analysis perspectives in the appraisal itself, and that is directly seen by the L&D team in our company. Somebody who's not performing, maybe out of a 5 rating scale gets 2 or 1, okay, non-performer, okay. We try and analyze whether there is an opportunity to grow for that person within the organization, and then do some training need analysis for them as well. Merit pay for performance. You perform better, you get more money. You do not perform better, you either don't get any money, or maybe get a little less, right? Benchmark bonus structures. Again, we'll look at a very clear-cut live example of a simple merit pay review when we talk about bonus structures over here. The methodology for performance appraisal is very simple. You do the goal setting at the beginning of the year. In our case, in Choithrams, we do it in November end each year. We do quarterly performance feedbacks. We are looking at a formal appraisal meet once in a year with the employee, between the employee and supervisor. This discussion generally takes place, and then it is followed by rating, ranking, and rationalization process. This is the last topic for the day, okay, a very interesting one. If you have any questions, please stop me there and then, because I don't want to run and disrupt anything. When an employee goes through an appraisal system, this is generally what you see, especially if you're not an HR person. So this is the only thing that you will see in performance management system, okay, the ratings. If you have 10 goals for you, okay, you'll be rated one of these over there. So obviously, and again, I'm just taking one example at this particular stage, because I would take idly 2 days to explain how this actually works. There are many rating scales. There are 6, there are 4, there are 3, but 5 rating scale is the most popular used one. The best one right now is 6, but that's a more technical thing. Maybe I'll leave it for some other day. So we have always exceed expectations, which is rating 5. If you perform really well, you get that. Exceed expectations 4. Meets expectations 100% generally, as we call it, is 3. Rarely meet expectations 2. Doesn't meet expectations 1. Now what happens is, when you keep assigning maybe 5, maybe 4, maybe 3, maybe 2, the average of all these ratings is never going to be 5 unless you get 5 on everything. And if that really happens, trust me, okay, it's a biased appraisal system. That's never going to happen, right? But the average will either come to, let's say, 4.14, 2.45, 3.12, So what we do is, we take this detail, maybe in Excel, okay. Does everybody understand Excel over here, right? So I'll talk the language that you understand in a very simple term. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take all of this data, okay. I have 50 people and I have their ratings. I'm going to use the row for ratings. I'm going to sort it from highest to lowest. So now I know that 4.14 is the highest. Maybe somebody's got 3.12, maybe somebody's got lower than that. And I convert those ratings, okay, into rankings. A, B, C, D, E. Have you all heard about the concept of bell curve? Can anybody tell me what is bell curve? A very popular rationalization methodology used by HR.
The highest point, in that area of the bell curve, the maximum employees who are performing best performance, they are in that area of the bell curve. The highest point.
Very nice.
Lay.
Are you studying HR, by the way?
Yeah.
Are you studying HR? Yeah, good. Good that you're reading all of these things, because generally, and actually kudos to you. I'll tell you what, books actually don't give you this information. So which is really nice.
So like I'm working right now.
Can I borrow a marker, if it's possible? Yeah. I would like to show you what a bell curve is, okay, and what different things people are actually doing. So should I use that one? This one? Okay. You see these percentages over here? 10%, 20%, 40%, 20%, 10%, right? And there's one more example of a skewed curve. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to distribute performers, okay, basis their achievement. So I say 10% of the employees can be put in A ranking. So by default, let me ask you this question. Our rating, the strongest rating was 4.14. Where are you going to put him? Which ranking are you going to give him? A? Obviously it has to be A, because he's the highest rater from the appraisal perspective, right? So he goes into A. But you know what I'm saying? Only 10% people can get it. So if let's say you have 10 people in your team, okay, how many people can you rank A? 1. Can you put 2? Well, you can, but HR is going to come back to you and tell you, hey, you can't put 2, remove this guy from there, right? And this is generally the crux between operations and HR all the time. We define this, we give it to all the business heads. We say you can put 10% people in A, following 20% people will go in B, following 40% people will get C, following 20% people will get D, and the bottom level 10% performers will go into E. Generally, we use this category, okay, for churning out. It's called positive churning. It's not called termination or redundancy. It's called positive churning in the organization, because you really don't want these non-performers who are there in the organization. You let them go and get fresh minds in the next stage, right? Now, how a bell curve gets created is, let's say you have your graph, right? You have, let's say, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all right? Now, A, B, C, D, and E. What's A? 10. This is 1. Your B is 20. Your C is 40. D is 20 again, and E is 10. What does this shape look like? Does it look like a bell? That's a bell curve, by the way. In very simple terms, if I have to explain you, right? Now this fundamental is called as a symmetrical bell curve. Have you read in newspapers or magazines or HR forums about Deloitte, Accenture, all these guys moving away from performance appraisals?
Yeah.
Have you heard about it? Can anybody tell me what is that different thing that they are going to do now?
They're going to do the regular performance check on the employees rather than anyone or.
So you are saying all these years when Accenture, Deloitte, all these guys, big four players were following this methodology, they were not looking at people's performance? It happens. Let's say if it's a big organization, obviously there will be biases, which is all fine, okay? And I understand that the discussion level will also be less because there are so many people one supervisor has. So how do I manage work plus this activity? Accepted. Are we saying that they are going to eliminate this whole process? If the answer is yes, then I have a question for you. The question is, if I am a supervisor who has got 50 people and I am told, like it is written in the magazines, if I am told that you assess how the person is performing, okay, and we will give you an increment basis that, how are you really going to give an increment if you don't follow this? So the concept that has cropped up is to use a skewed bell curve. So now what happens is, okay, I'll use the same chart over here and you'll understand the variance. So you have 5%, okay, you have you have 5% on A, you have 30% on B, you have 55% somewhere over here on C, you have 9% which is like right a little over here, and 1% over here. Now what happens is, look at the variance. Looks like a very old bell, but still a bell curve, right? What is the difference between both of these?
One is skewed and one is normal.
Which is fine, but why use a skewed curve?
You can immediately go and know about the positive. That you can know about the positiveness.
I'll come to that. One second. Come again.
About the positiveness.
How is it positive? It is positive. Definitely it is positive. That is the reason people are switching to it. Why is it so positive? Okay. I've specifically drawn both the curves over here. Okay. What can you make out from this? The percentages are here, the rankings are here, the variance is seen. What can you make out of this?
One is really random and the other one is
Which one is random?
the second one.
The skewed curve. Okay. What if I tell you that actually specifically takes care of the organization's issues in managing retention as well to a certain extent?
These are the normal performers who are they're going to, an organization is going to keep rather than keeping all,
Okay. My question to you guys, how many percentage of people are we considering as performers when we look at a symmetrical bell curve? Symmetrical.
The first 90%.
No, generally when I look at performers, 3 is satisfactory.
Oh, okay.
So satisfactory is like my threshold, right? So how many percentage of people are we looking at as performers when we look at a symmetrical curve? How many? 70%, right? 5, 4, 3. 3 and above, right? 70%. How many in skewed?
20.
See the difference? So when you read these articles from Deloitte, they say that the bell curve system or the forced distribution system, okay, pushed us to remove people. My question is, who made this? Who put 10% over here in the bottom? System did not put it. Individuals who made the system put it, right? So nobody is moving out of performance appraisal mechanism. The intent is to have less push, okay, for positive churning. I'm talking about 1% people in an organization. Today I take care of 4,000 people, okay. If I have to look at 1% people going out of the organization, it's not a big task for me. But if I put 10% over there for positive churning on an annual basis, I'm looking at 400 people exiting my company because of non-performance. I should be questioning my recruitment standards and my training standards. It's a practical problem for me. So what most of the companies have realized right now is that we need to lay more emphasis on training people, trying to upbring their performance and provide a better coverage for people to stay within the organization, right? So now I say that I will put, top 5% people will get A ranking, next 30% will get B, 55% will get C, 9% will get D, and they will go into the development phase, the D guys, and 1% employees will go out. That's how the matrix right now runs. The added flavor to the new methodology of skewed appraisal is that you generally get to meet your supervisor to discuss your performance once in 3 months. Quarterly feedbacks. That is nice. Because let's say if I have to come to you and tell you in the month of December during your appraisal that do you remember you did this in the month of February, what would be your answer to me? No, you have done it. But what you're going to tell me is, then Kunal, you should have told me this in February, right? Why are you telling me right now? Because I didn't know I was doing something wrong. I kept doing it. Right? So, this is the quarterly feedback system helps you that way. So, we have 90% of employees to be placed in top ratings 5, 4 and 3 over here. Rating 2 has a minimum of 9% employees, and rating 1 can only accommodate a minimum of 1%, which is used for positive churning. And it generally ensures that managers conduct a legitimate appraisal. And trust me, sometimes it is easy to find 10% people because it's a mockery. 10% people, you go over there. But when you have to really find 1% in your team, if you have, let's say 50 people, okay, or 60 people, smaller units, it becomes a massive challenge who gets that one rating. And this is actually where the competencies come into picture. So sometimes, you have achieved 100%, all your employees have achieved 100% if you go by management, by objectives, portfolio. But when competencies and balance scorecard comes into picture, you actually assess, whether the discipline was in place, whether the ethics was in the place. Are there any disciplinary memos that have been given to any employee in my team, but I have to really think of putting somebody over there. And genuinely, there is always an acceptable variance, okay, when we look at the expected bell curve versus the actual bell curve. So just in case you say, I do not have anybody whom I can give a 1, that's also absolutely fine. I'm talking about smaller units, okay, where you really cannot determine, because you need at least 100 people to determine that 1%. But when you have smaller units less than 100, it's okay at times. So what happens is, people who are managing a bigger chunk of headcount, let's say 500 people, 600 people, you try and take the ones from them. That's how it goes. Any questions on this for now? Yeah, all clear?